And we are here with episode 34 of the Ricky Henderson a podcast, the greatest of all podcasts, the G.O.A.P. Super glad to be joined by new athletic beat writer for the A's, Steve Berman. And you guys are probably familiar with him, but Steve, how you doing, man? You good?
I'm great, Alex. How you, man?
Thank you. I know you're a busy man. Thank you so much for joining this. So yeah, congrats on the new role. First of all, I'm just kind of curious. I know you were kind of juggling the media column and A's coverage before. But what's it kind of like going from a critic to a reporter? You know, like you were critiquing the media, and now you're doing it. You know, it's kind of weird, right?
Yeah, I've sort of juggled that for a while now.
Yeah.
I mean, even with the media column, that was once a week, but then I was writing about pretty much every team in the Bay Area. Otherwise, I mean, I've covered Cal and Stanford football for the Athletics since I've been full time, and obviously a lot of A stuff, some Giants, Niners, Raiders, Warriors, Sharks media. Not really a hockey expert. I apologize to the hockey fans out there, but yeah, so it was always kind of weird to juggle the two. Like, all right, I'm critiquing something I'm already doing. I see all these people in the press boxes. So yeah, it can get a little awkward at times for sure.
Yeah. Well, do you like having your boots on the ground? Do you like, I mean, I know obviously it's a little different now. You guys aren't in the locker room per se, but I mean, do you like just being out there in the middle of the action, kind of being on that front line?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's what I, kind of came up doing with Barry Sports Guy. I was like, I would go to every practice and every game that I can make it to. Generally, not the A's. The A's wouldn't credential me back when I was independent, but the Giants and 49ers and Warriors did. So I was always out there. That was a lot more fun to me. The media thing kind of fell into my lap. It was more like I got sources from, different stations and different outlets, and I'd break some stories that other people didn't have, and I saw how much attention it got. Like when Ralph Barbieri got fired from KMBR, I broke that one, and that totally broke my site. My server couldn't handle the traffic. So,
that's good,
and
right?
when I write about different stuff that other people weren't writing about media wise, the radio wars, that kind of stuff, the comments would go crazy. So when Tim Kawakami became editor-in-chief of the Athletic Bay Area in 2017, he asked me to do a media column once a week. And so I was doing that as a freelancer until I got hired full-time in 2019. But yeah, I've always loved doing the actual work of covering games, analyzing what's going on, with the teams, with the games, with the players, transactions, and talking to players and coaches. That's always been fun to me.
Yeah. And what kind of writing do you think people can expect for you? I mean, are you going to dive into like human interest stuff, analytics, just kind of overlooked stories that other people aren't writing about? I mean, obviously I know you guys don't do traditional game stories and stuff like that, but what kind of writing can A's fans expect from you think?
I would say, the kind of a mix of all that, but probably more in terms of what's going on the field and transactions is kind of what I go for. I mean, I analytics is cool with me. I know it, I'm aware of all the different analytics that are out there. I do think if you get too hardcore into that
me
stuff,
too.
though,
Yeah,
you get people kind of their eyes start to glaze over a little bit unless you're just really into that aspect of the game. So I think it's good to supplement your coverage with that stuff to show, maybe in a different way what is going on. But more for me, and I think that this is something that you're doing with the Ricky Henderson of blogs, is to actually kind of show that this is a team that hasn't gotten a lot of media coverage.
Yeah.
Definitely is behind the eight ball on media stuff. We all know about the radio, the flagship station history, that kind of thing. But it's a really fun team with great personalities.
Yeah.
So at least like in the start, as I've been doing this, when I was doing occasional game stories throughout the year, and then now that I'm on the beat full time, is to actually kind of show what's going on in that dugout, in that clubhouse.
Yeah, I think they're a really fun team. They deserve way more attention than they're getting. That's what I know me and Shane have talked about that before. It's like
exactly
like
so
they deserve a lot of attention,
Yeah, like last night when after the game, Cole Irvin talked about bringing donuts in for the boys before the game because he knew that everyone was a little bummed out after Saturday night's loss, and so he thought that would make everyone feel better. It's kind of funny when I was watching batting practice yesterday, or not yesterday but Saturday. So Cole Irvin took BP because he was going to hit on Sunday, and I see him, he's eating some like pastry. It wasn't a Pop Tart, but it was like something like that. Like had
Yeah.
frosting on it, and he scarfed that thing down. And I was like, man, this guy really likes his donuts. So that was kind of the thing I led off with last night was the fact that he brought donuts in and that kind of stuff. I think. I
Yeah,
mean, you see the
yeah, it's
players
funny. Yeah.
play hacky sack before the games and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of where I'm going to lean. Probably not as many of
Mhm.
the human interesty feature stories. I think I'll do that occasionally, but
Mhm.
we'll see. We got a few months
Yeah,
left of this
yeah.
season, and I think pennant race is probably going to be the most important thing.
Well, yeah, and you mentioned transactions too. So are you interested in, what they're going to do at the trade deadline? I mean, obviously everybody's saying they got to get a bullpen guy. I think they need some outfield help too.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree with.
what are the yeah, where do you feel like do you have any like targets, or do you have any idea who they might pursue at this point?
So I know like Richard Rodriguez is a guy that they from the Pirates that has already been written about by us as
Mhm.
a potential closer guy. So I think, but yeah, I'm gonna be diving in over the next few weeks and sort of scour the
Yeah, it's
the
kind of hard
rosters
to
of.
it's kind of hard, right? To see like a good guy who's maybe in a contract year on a bad team, something like that. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah. I don't know.
But yeah, I think that we're definitely the Athletic is going to hit that hard. I
Yeah.
mean, people love the transactions, and really, it's going to be interesting to see what both teams in this region do leading up to the trade deadline because they're both going to
Yeah.
be buyers, and we'll see how many sellers are out there. I don't know if there's going to be a ton of sellers, but you can already look at the standings and see some teams that would be obvious targets.
Yeah. Yeah. And so yeah, we mentioned Bay Area Sports Guy a few times. You started that January 2008. And I'm curious, what was the media landscape like then? And like, I know it's only been 13 years, but I'm sure everything has changed in that time, especially with the advent of social media, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely changed quite a bit.
Because Twitter
No
was
one was doing.
2009, right? Or I think Twitter came after your site, right? Or maybe right around the same
Yeah,
time or something. Like, yeah.
like just about the same time, I think. Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's definitely different. I mean, there was only one radio station when I started around here. It was just KMBR,
DNVR,
or I
yeah.
guess and then KMBR 1050, which was like
The
David
Raiders.
Bruce, and that was it.
Yeah.
Uh, so then another radio station came out. NBC Sports Bay Area was Comcast Sports Bay Area at that time, and
Yeah.
they were doing a lot more original content than they do now.
Yeah.
So they were trying to be
They
like
had like
sort of
an
like.
insider like for every team and everything. And
Oh yeah, and
yeah.
different shows that they had. They had Sports
Yeah.
Talk Live. They had Sportsnet Central. They would do more original documentaries and stuff, and they've really scaled back on that. Newspapers were starting to change when I started the site, which is why I started the site, was because
Mhm.
I could see the writing on the wall where my idea of like, oh, I'm going to write for a newspaper. It might not happen with the Bay Area News Group buying out half of their staff in 2008. And then I was like, okay, well, I've been
Yes.
freelancing for them for a while, covering like high school
Yeah.
sports and hoping to move up through there. And I was like, all right, there's no way I'm going to move up. So if I want to write about what I want to write about, I just have to do it myself. So yeah, the
Yeah.
media landscape's changed quite a bit. And then, like you mentioned, social media has changed everything too.
Yeah. That's how I kind of feel like now. I feel like honestly, I just want to cover the A's like the way I want to cover them, because I had been doing it for MLB.com and NBC Sports Bay Area, but there's still, those team connections. You can't fully be a third party. I do value that independence when it comes to journalism. It seems like all these media companies are slowly getting in bed with the company, with the teams. So it's kind of blurring that line. And
Yeah.
and I don't know if I hope there's more independent journalists in the future. I don't know if that's going to keep happening.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
there's ways for people to have platforms.
yeah,
It takes a lot of work. I know that from experience. I mean, I
yeah,
started it from scratch, and it took a while, and I was able to build it up, and I had, kind of a little mini army of writers that were writing for me too. But the problem is really it's the money. In terms of where do you get money from? Like some people do stuff like Substack or Patreon. Advertising dollars were starting to dry up back in the mid 2010s. So that's when
yeah,
I kind of knew that, I'd been working and working, and I was starting to make some decent money, and then it started kind of getting pulled back because advertisers started realizing, hey, no one clicks on banner ads anymore, and
yeah,
a lot of people have ad blocker. So so what they wanted was like advertorial, which where like you're writing a story that is a pretend story about something that's legit, and then like you're weaving in stuff about the company,
Yeah, yeah,
which just pisses readers off. So
yeah.
they
They're too
or they
yeah.
want
Readers are too
video.
smart now. Yeah, readers like can read right through all that stuff now. Yeah,
Yeah, and they want everything for free. And that was where newspapers totally screwed up, in the very beginning. They're like, oh,
yeah,
well, this online thing, okay, we'll just throw everything, all of our content online for free, but people are still going to have the paper delivered to their driveway. And that ended up not being the case. And then when they started trying to ask for subscriptions, like The Athletic does too,
Mhm.
a lot of people will do it, but a lot of people will say, no, I can get this information for free elsewhere.
Yeah. And I'm curious, what do you think about I mean, I know you work for the Athletic, but I don't even know if you could comment on this. What do you think about their business model? And do you guys think you guys need to incorporate more video and stuff like that to reach younger audiences? What do you think about the Athletic and how they're handling the kind of changing sports media landscape?
Well, I mean, I understand the subscription model is, if you want to pay journalists, you have to get money somewhere. And
Yeah, for
because,
sure.
and I think that, you know, the model of quality journalism with no ads is a good one. We do have ads on some of our podcasts. I do think that we're going to step into more video stuff. The company already acquired a set of YouTubers that do English Premier League stuff. So those
Mhm.
guys are like based in the UK. So that was months ago. But I would imagine you're going to see a little bit more of that. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there's a lot that is kind of unknown about how all this is going to shake out in terms of you know there's still competition between us and newspapers. There were
Yeah.
even rumors that the New York Times was gonna acquire the Athletic.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. That's crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think that's actually gonna happen, but
Yeah.
so yeah, there's a lot. I mean, I can't get too into it
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's
obviously.
my
Yeah, yeah.
company, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I agree with the business model and
Mhm.
the mission of the company, but I guess all I can really say is I know that the media landscape changes pretty drastically all the time, and there's
Yeah,
always new
very quickly.
technologies that sort of change the game a little bit. So
Mhm.
we'll see in the next 5 years or so what it looks like.
Yeah, because I'm really interested. I know Grant Cohn is kind of like a lightning rod over on the 49ers for himself, but I've seen a lot of the live streaming that he does on YouTube, and I wonder if that might be. I know he's kind of cultivated his own little fan base and everything. I'm curious if you feel like live streaming on YouTube might eventually become a more mainstream thing that happens as a distribution tool. You
Yeah,
know?
I think for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
seems like a lot of people are starting to go that way. We have a couple people with the Athletic who are already doing that kind of thing. I don't know if it's live streaming as much as
Uh-huh.
posting video clips, but live streaming I think works too. There's also like there's like the clubhouse stuff and
Yeah.
locker room and that kind of thing as well. And there's all kinds of different companies that are trying to get into that space too right now. So we'll see
Mhm.
how that shakes out. Which one becomes the next Twitter or Facebook of that genre. But YouTube seems like a place where a lot of people are, a lot of younger people are.
Yeah.
So I think that's attractive to a
Yeah,
lot of people
it
who are
seems like
trying to get out there.
like Generation Z is really kind of like lifting that ship. And I was
Yeah.
watching some video he did. He had some young 20 something on there. He's like, dude, I don't read anymore. What am I supposed to read? I'm like, oh my God, like kids don't even read anymore. It was funny. He's like,
Oh,
yeah, I just like having a
kids
video
these
on in the
days.
background, it's funny. So who knows, man? Everything in the cycle is just shorter and shorter too.
Yeah.
And in terms of like media interest, I feel like the A's in the media, there's kind of a chicken and the egg thing. It's like, yeah, there's not a lot of fans, but there's not a lot of interest. So like, do media companies have to invest up front almost? Because I was working at NBC Sports Bay Area, and I could just see the numbers. The interest in Giants is probably 5 to 10 times what the A's is.
Yep.
And so NBC doesn't. A lot of times they don't put as much. They don't have an insider like Alex Pavlovich on the A's. So is it kind of like this chicken and egg thing? It's like companies need to kind of see it as an investment, even though might not get the return.
Yeah.
How do you? I know it's not their job to develop the A's fan base, but I mean, just to draw interest in general.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, it falls on the team to
Yeah,
generate its own fan base.
yeah,
The A's have not been marketed incredibly well over the last couple decades.
yeah.
A lot of great teams that have sort of been, you know, I don't know. It's almost like they've wanted to sort of cultivate sort of like an indie following, almost like, sort of like
Yeah,
like a band that doesn't want to sign with a major label type of thing.
that's a
So
funny. Yeah, it's a funny
yeah,
analogy.
so
Yeah.
that ultimately falls on them in terms of media coverage and stuff. I do think though that the tenor of coverage and the tone and if you can actually draw eyeballs and ears with things that are interesting to people. I mean, it's a fan base. I mean, I was actually kind of surprised at the reaction when I said I was going to be the A's beat writer for the rest of the year. Like, it
Uh-huh.
was pretty large. Like, I was a little
Especially on
overwhelmed that
social,
day.
on Twitter, the A's are really A's fans are super active on Twitter. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah,
So I know they're out there. They've just been sort of beaten down for over the years with,
yeah,
you know, playoff, postseason stuff that's frustrating where they can't advance, and also the inability or lack of desire to retain their own talent. So, A's fans are sort of like, let me know when you have a new stadium. Let me know when you're going to re-sign the
yeah,
Mats. That kind of thing. Otherwise, I can't handle it anymore. It's been too painful. And also
yeah.
the Giants in the early 2010s with their championship runs, like, I mean, they were already the bigger team in the Bay Area, and then
Mhm.
they took a lot of casual fans in the East Bay that might have been A's fans if the A's were really, really good and the Giants weren't any good, and made them Giants fans. I mean,
Yeah, that's like
see
a
a
whole
lot of people on
generation
the
of kids. Yeah, that could have been there. Yeah, yeah,
exactly. So I
yeah,
mean, but the A's still have fans, but I do think that it's mostly up to the team. But I do think it's up to people who cover the team and the corporations, the media corporations, to still actually invest in coverage for sure. Because it's
yeah,
I could see a situation where they move to Vegas, say, and
yeah,
after being unsuccessful here. But it's also a possibility that the Howard Terminal thing works, and then you have a waterfront ballpark, and then who knows, maybe they start spending money, and maybe
yeah.
in 10, 20 years, everything looks a lot different for them.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I mean, and yeah, because yeah, I've talked about this before. I really think the A's are really kind of shooting themselves in the foot. Like they haven't had Olsen or Chapman or Bassett, like Mania. Like these guys aren't really in commercials. You don't really, there's no banners around town anymore. Like I don't know. It's you can tell like they're marketing. They just pretty much make commercials off of game footage and nice scenics of the Coliseum, and that's pretty much all they have.
Yeah, I've
It's
noticed that too. They used to have pretty clever commercials
Yeah, they
too.
had great commercials. They were like they were actually funny. Yeah, and they were
Yeah.
getting, and it's just good to like get familiar with like people's faces. Like people don't even know, what Chris Bassett looks like and stuff like that. He could probably walk down the street and not get bothered.
Yeah,
So
no, without a problem, I'm
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
and we
unless he was like wearing an A's uniform, and then even then, like they'd
yeah.
probably be like, oh, who's that guy
All
with
right, who's that?
with
Who's
the weird
number?
hair?
Yeah,
But and also he's got a great personality too. I mean,
I
he's
know, and he's like super
maybe the most
talkative and funny.
honest,
Yeah.
pitcher I've ever encountered.
Yeah.
And I thought also too, the YouTube game that they were on last week,
Mhm.
the Mania stuff was gold.
Yeah, yeah.
Mania sometimes, like, it seems like he kind of, you know, he almost like holds himself back a little bit from saying everything he wants to say when he does the Zoom calls with us. So he does say some funny stuff from time to time, but then because you see him in the dugout and he's just wild,
It's so
it's like
loose. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
many,
Yeah.
different, noises that he makes that aren't
Yeah.
even words. But then you say, oh, Sean Turfy, because the ball, he hit the ball in the turf, and there's a lot of funny stuff that he said, and you kind of got a good idea of, because it's a unique clubhouse. It's a very
Yeah.
unique clubhouse, very loose, always has been. I think Melvin is a big part of that, but also just the
Mhm.
players that they get. Seems like they all sort of have sort of almost like a college dorm type of environment there.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's kind of been there ever since. Well, I don't know. I remember hearing about like the G.O.A.P teams, like were super wild. I don't know if it's like that, but it's always kind of been like that in
Yep.
Oakland. Yeah. And speaking of lack of marketing, Matt Olson did not make like the top three finalists for first baseman. I know the position is pretty stacked. People are mad that Jose Brady made it, but I don't know. I mean, as long as he had decent numbers, I figured he was probably going to be in the top three. I mean, I think there's still a chance he could still make the coaches could put him on there anyways. I think, but do you think he's a snub, or do you think that's just I think he was fifth in voting, or do you think it's understandable? I mean, I kind of see how it happened, honestly. Yeah.
I mean, name recognition for Vlad Jr. is obvious
Yeah,
because
for sure.
I mean, everyone knows who his dad was and a Hall of Famer. Abreu was the MVP last year, and he plays for in a market, Chicago. That's a lot, is pretty excited about their team right now, and
Yeah.
decent size. I mean, it's not the Cubs, but still. So in
And then
also a lot of the A's games are
yeah.
played. It's 7 o'clock on the West Coast too. So I mean, I think a lot of people are starting to kind of realize that Matt Olson's a really good player, but he had a kind of a down year last year, and he's on the Oakland A's, so a lot of people have no idea who he is. So I mean, not that many people know about Ramon Laureano and what he can do out there as well.
Yeah.
Chapman is pretty well known, but not a guy who gets as much pub as a lot of other third basemen too. So, yeah, I think fifth is actually pretty decent for what you expect for voting. It's for fan
Yeah.
voting, and
Yeah.
he's definitely going to make the team.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, and what did you think of? Who else? I mean, I think Bassett and Mania have a chance, and also I was thinking as of yesterday, like Lou Trevino might have a chance. Like he's got like a sub 2 ERA. He's like converted 12 of 14. I don't know, he's doing all right, but so I think the A's like have a chance of having some multiple all stars.
Yeah, they at least should get one of the two between Bassett and Mania. I mean, it could end up being that their stats say that both of them are deserved when it gets time to pick, but at least one of them. Trevino,
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, there's
yeah,
I have to look at all the
yeah. Let's look
closers
at the
in
relievers too.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I know Matt Barnes from the Red Sox I think is definitely going to make it. And I have to look and see
I
who
mean,
else.
Liam Hendricks is. I was looking. He's has like 51 strikeouts and 3 walks or something crazy like that. Like it's nuts, dude. Yeah, he's having a
Yeah, I
really
think
good
Liam is
year.
actually probably someone who would make it too. We'll see. I mean,
Yeah,
I think Trevino has an outside shot. I think, especially if he kind of ramps it up here in the next week or so with if he
yeah,
gets like 4 saves this week. But
yeah.
I think Bassett is probably the favorite, but Mania has a lower ERA, so it might be him.
Yeah, for sure. And just the way they rotate. I mean, Cole Irvin yesterday pitched eight innings. I honestly think Frankie Montas is like the biggest wild card in the rotation now. Just the way that Mania and Bassett are super solid. And then Irvin, him and Caprillion seem like they're more consistent than Frankie at this point. And I know Frankie was kind of weird and standoffish about the sticky substance thing. I don't know if that has anything to do with it either. People saying his spin rate is down a little bit, but I don't know. I mean, honestly, it's kind of interesting to me to think like Frankie is like the number 5 starter in this rotation right now. That's how good they are. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like if you told me that at the end of the season he was their closer, it wouldn't shock me.
Really?
Yeah, I
Wow.
mean, Trevor Rosenthal is a guy who could come back, but I don't think you should really bet on it. I mean, he
Mhm.
might be starting baseball activities this week, which would be a good sign. But when I heard that he had thoracic outlet surgery on his shoulder, I figured he was out for the season. So this is actually a little surprising to me.
Yeah.
Montas would be a guy who would be great out of the pen. I mean,
That would be I didn't even think about that. That would be
yeah,
crazy,
he could
man.
just
Yeah.
throw gas because he's a guy whose pitch kind of always seems to rise a little bit faster than you'd want because he has these alternate he alternates between great innings and terrible innings, and you don't know when they're coming. Like he was breezing through the Giants, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden, one inning he walks the leadoff guy. He ends up having to battle through trouble. He pitches another couple great innings, and then in the 5th inning, he gives up the 2-run homer to Lamont Wade Jr. And so, and that was actually a pretty decent start. I mean, the start previous, he gave up
Yeah.
5 runs in the 1st inning in Texas. So yeah, he's very volatile with what's going on. I think his stuff is great. His ability to actually use it to pitch, it
Yeah.
kind of wanes and kind of goes up and down with
Yeah,
each
because
start.
sometimes he's like like just darted, like throwing 97-mile-an-hour darts like on the
Yep.
black, and it's like, dude, you can't. Nobody's gonna touch that. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he does eat innings, and he stays healthy. So for the most part, so I think that they want that right now. But I think if they had their choice, Luzardo would start really picking it up in AAA, and they could remake him into a starter, and maybe then Montas would be able to go to the bullpen. I don't know. I mean, they also, I think, we're hoping that Luzardo could be that second lefty out of the pen, which, for obvious reasons, you only have one, and he's a guy whose stuff was great out of the pen when he got called up in 2019. So I don't know. There's a lot of moving pieces here, but yeah, Montas, I think right now for sure is sort of the least consistent member of the starting rotation as currently constructed.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And I know a lot of people have been clamoring for Trevor Story, but I think Elvis is probably, honestly, he's like, I think he's kind of stabilized and he's fine. I don't think it's worth it for them to pursue a shortstop and all the capital it would take to acquire somebody. And then where do you do with Elvis and his contract? I think he's kind of like solidified that position. Do you think they even
Yeah,
pursue Trevor Story at this point, or?
I would be shocked.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
for one, the A's farm system doesn't have a bunch of like really well known ballyhooed prospects at this point. I mean, they got some guys, but I'm
Mhm.
not sure who the Rockies would want, and I'm sure there would be a bidding war for Trevor Story coming up
Yeah.
here. And they love Elvis. I mean, I mean, he's got a personality that they really like. They feel like he calms everyone down in the clubhouse. He's just, kind of light and warm all the time. And I think his defense has gotten better and better as the season has gone on. He's kind of figuring out how to play next to Chapman a little bit better.
Mhm.
A third baseman who has so much range and takes over so many balls to his left. And Elvis is starting to hit a little bit better too. I mean, he got moved up to second in the order on Sunday and hit Sammy
Yeah.
Long curveball he got a hit on Sammy Long's curveball is the first time all season. Well, I mean, Sammy Long's only been up for a little while, but apparently he'd thrown 87 curveballs up until that point and hadn't given up a hit yet until
Oh wow.
Elvis Andrews did it. So no, I think Melvin loves Andrews, and I think if they're gonna get a bat, it would be an outfield bat, especially if Mark
Mhm.
Canha's hip injury doesn't get better pretty soon.
Yeah, they're banged up in the outfield right now. I mean, Tony Kemp's been kind of a god. I mean, I know his arm is it doesn't look like his arm's the best, but his range is. I mean, he's really good out there. It seems pretty good his range in left field. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they like his offense right now. I mean, he's getting on base over 40% of the time. So,
Yeah.
and Piscotty is a guy whose wrist doesn't really seem to be getting better. He got another cortisone shot. He got one in spring
Yeah,
training. He
they're
just got
banged
one
up
this
out
last
there.
week. So, I think if they might be looking for another outfield bat, I could
Mhm.
say I could see that. So, I mean, someone suggested Joey Gallo the other day to me. I don't know if the Rangers would really want. I mean, they already did the trade with him for Chris Davis for Andrews, but I think both teams are trying to get off those players. So
Yeah,
that was
it's
a little
crazy. Chris
different.
Davis he got released and he still hasn't been picked up by anybody. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean,
I mean, Chris Davis has really been. I mean, he's completely unplayable in the outfield, and
yeah.
he stopped hitting homers at the same rate that he was before. I mean, he got hurt in Pittsburgh a couple years back, and he hasn't been the same.
Yeah. All right. I got one more for you. I know you got to head out of here. I'm curious. So I'm just thinking about this whole Frankie Montas thing. Do you think Dalton Jeffries should be the guy who gets called up? Say it's in this hypothetical scenario that Montas gets moved into the bullpen. Do you think Dalton Jeffries would be able to handle that role? Because as far as I know, he's still pitching pretty well down in Las Vegas. Yeah.
His numbers been okay,
Mm.
but I mean, the numbers in Vegas for all the pitchers
Everybody's yeah. Yeah.
is pretty much terrible. That's why Domingo Acevedo got called up because he was like the one guy
Yeah. Yeah. Good
dominating
numbers. Yeah.
over there. I don't know. I mean, I think Dalton Jeffries is probably not the guy that they would do that for. I don't. I mean, I'm not predicting Montas is going to get moved to the bullpen,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
if Luzardo refines what he had before and they feel like they can lengthen him out to be a starter, I think that's what they really want. I mean, all they ever say is, Luzardo's going to be a part of this team. Luzardo's going to be a part of this
Yeah.
team.
Yeah.
Melvin says it, the players say it. And I really do think they believe it. I mean, he's got that kind of stuff. So I think that would be a Luzardo thing.
Okay.
And only if Luzardo they feel like is ready. Otherwise, I think they'll just let Montas pitch, 5 or 6 innings each time
Yeah.
and just roll with that.
Well, because it seems like Luzardo's still trying to figure stuff out. I think he gave up like 3 runs in 3 1/3 or something like that his last time out. So it's like
Yeah, I think they
he's
really liked
still
his
figuring it out. Yeah.
Yeah, he had 3 shutout innings his first start, and then the last one kind of regressed a little bit. It is a really tough league right now for pitchers,
Yeah.
but yeah, they want to give him a shot. I mean, there's a reason why he's not pitching 1 or 2 innings. He's pitching 3 after pitching 1 or 2 for the A's in the bullpen for a while there. So they're trying to stretch him out a little bit and see if he can figure out a way to avoid the home run ball.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really bad. That's been his biggest problem. Well, dude, thank you so much, Steve. The A's are back on a homestand starting tomorrow against the Rangers. It's the
Yep.
Rangers, right? Yeah, it is the Rangers, right?
Yeah, Rangers 3, and then the Red Sox come in.
Yeah, that'll be wild series. Yeah, that'll be really fun, dude. I'm
Yeah, full
excited for that one.
capacity
Yeah.
too,
Yeah, it'll be
you're
nuts.
gonna have all the massholes coming in there too. So,
Yeah, that'll be great. That'll be awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Steve. Everybody can follow him at BA Sports Guy on Twitter. and make sure to follow all his reading, his articles on The Athletic. All right. Thank you so much, Steve.
Thanks, Alex.